All right, hello everyone, and happy April. Welcome back to 2W Conversations. Today we're continuing our mini-series on modern work. We chose a multi-part series for this topic because with the pandemic, a lot of these tools were almost forced on us, eliminating the need for decision-making, which in turn eliminated the need to educate. It kind of became a learn-as-we-go kind of thing. So this is part 2. If you haven't had the chance to watch part 1 and want a little bit more substance around the term of modern work, definitely go give that a quick listen. Alex, our IT engineer, and Brad, our modern work practice manager, do a great job simplifying the definition. Alex said it best when condensing the definition to one sentence. He said, here at 2W, modern work includes anything that impacts how our technology works together in a business sense. So that includes SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, basically the whole Microsoft 365 suite. So if you want to learn more about the functionality of those tools and how they aid in seamless collaboration, part 1 will be linked below. But if you do feel like you have a good grasp on the topic, today Alex and Brad are back and are ready to get more granular and focus on the security within the modern work realm. In today's world, we're blessed with a lot of advanced tools, which is great, but it also comes with more responsibility. Would you guys agree?
100%, Danielle. And when we break down kind of those responsibilities, it's around security, protection, and compliance, right? And so that's what we want to talk about today is how do we protect our information? How do we manage our security because it's an ongoing, always changing thing? How do we mitigate threats, so threat protection? And then security and compliance. How do we manage our compliance in this modern work setting where everything is talking to everything, files are always on the go, and how do we still stay safe and secure while still being able to do our work collaboratively?
No, I think that's absolutely on point. And going back to our previous discussion of what modern work is, you have a tremendous amount of tools to use every day within the platform of work. Now we want to take a look at what we have to do to protect the tools that we use to do the job, right? And I think, going over the different areas that we have to go through now to protect the information that we have to do our job is something that, is an effective use of time within modern work. And one of the things that we want to look at first, I think, Alex, is the information protection piece of modern work and of the Microsoft stack that we support here at 2W Tech. Can you give some perspective in regards to information protection?
Yeah, so when we say information protection, that is all of your files, how do we make sure that we're in the cloud now? And the cloud is, I always anytime I hear that word, it brings me back to those early, I think it was Apple commercials where it was the cloud. What is the cloud? And it's this ambiguous topic. It's this ambiguous thing. And I think there still is a layer of ambiguity around it. And that's kind of what scares people when it comes to cloud storage, right? Where does all this stuff live? It has to live somewhere. It's no longer living on my personal computer. It's no longer living in that beeping box in the back we call a server. It is in the cloud. And so, Brad, we want to talk about what is the cloud. I'll stop using my fun cloud voice for everybody, but talk about what that actually means and what that is.
So it's somebody else's server, right? And I think that's always the thing that, when we talk to a lot of clients out here, where are my files stored? We're moving them from their local data centers or a local store of servers that they had on their local on-premise business, right? So they're moving their data from that particular server into, let's just say, Microsoft Azure or Microsoft 365. And so they expect us to secure that, and they expect Microsoft to secure that, right? And so when we're moving those files out to the cloud, whether it's in Microsoft Outlook or Exchange or within SharePoint or OneDrive, those servers are owned by Microsoft in different data centers that are co-located around the country and around the world. So as Alex was saying, in his beeping noises, which we love, That data is secured in multi-level types of security structures, right? So whether a person has to have very tight security to actually get into those data centers, or to actually access those data as yourself or as your business trying to accessing those files. And that includes, say, your business X, and you're trying to access your data that is in the Microsoft Cloud for your tenant, which is your files on the Microsoft 365 Cloud. So that's where we get into DLP and MFA and being able to know who you are accessing those files.
Yeah, and real quick before we talk about the alphabet soup of protection, I want to talk kind of more about, just real quick, on the Microsoft servers, and that what you're doing is, by moving to SharePoint and OneDrive, you're taking that burden of making sure that that your servers are up to date, that they're locked down, protected. You're putting that burden on Microsoft, whose job it is to make sure to get you on the latest and greatest and keep everything safe and secure. So to replicate that level of protection, redundancy, and reliability in an on-premise system would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But because Microsoft has so many other endpoints and so many users, that they're able to include the use of SharePoint and OneDrive in your business SKUs. And if you have modern 365 SKUs, very, very good chance you already have the access to use these tools. So take the burden off of yourself and put that on Microsoft and use the tools that you're already paying for.
I'll add just a little bit of flavor onto that, Alex. Is I was working with a client, and this was this past week, and the client asked us what do I get from Microsoft out there? And Microsoft has a very solid SLA, and I would say, for those that are listening, the rules of the road. So you can go out to Microsoft right now and say, what are our SLA when it comes to Azure? What is our SLA when it comes to Microsoft 365 for all the products? And if you don't know what an SLA is, it's a service level agreement. So when you go out to Microsoft, it's like, what is my uptime? Is it 99.9% uptime on our servers? What is our RTO, our return to service for a particular product? And those are all out there on the Microsoft website as well. And as what Alex is saying is fantastic in regards to going out there. It is up to the Microsoft burden to show what it is to bring that data back if something happens, if there's a network outage or a particular server block goes offline at a particular data center. How quickly can they move that to another server or another data center? And so that, once again, it takes quite a bit of money to do that. Microsoft has the velocity and the economy of scale to be able to do that, versus a lot of different smaller businesses, medium and small businesses, that are unable to do that. And it really takes that burden off of you, and to put a lot of your burden in your hand of actually doing business work and not having to worry about, did my server get patched 3 weeks ago, and making sure that I don't talk about ransomware or phishing, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but making sure that all my stuff is patched and all my emails are being scanned and all that kind of good stuff.
Exactly. And it's now we're going to talk about the part of this, the alphabet soupy part, where that you can do on your own, that is not on the Microsoft burdens, additional security measures that you can put in place, and we highly recommend that you put in place to keep your data safe and secure. So arguably the most important feature that every business should have in place is multi-factor authentication, or MFA. That, or sometimes some people call it 2FA, two-factor authentication. Basically, you need 2 keys to get in, so that if somebody guesses your password, well, your account's not compromised. They still have to get that second authentication to allow users into your system. And where this helps is, it's because everybody's not in the same location. I can't look over at Brad all the time and go, Brad, did you just try to log in? Brad might be, in another state on a client site, or I might be working from home, or he might be working from home, or whatever it is. But we need to make sure that users are who they say they are. The easiest way to do that and keep bad actors out is turning on multi-factor authentication.
Right. And it's available to you, out of the box with what we have with our Microsoft SKUs. And there's always someone that says, "Why do I have to do multi-factor authentication?" I mean, you look at your bank website. You look at a lot of the websites that you go to right now. I need to go pay my mortgage. Guess what? They're asking you for a second layer of authentication. You get a text message on your phone to be able to enter a code to go out there to your banking website. I mean, it's everywhere, and the reason why is what Alex is saying. It's to protect yourself from bad actors. We can also talk about other ways of doing multi-factor authentication besides your phone. There's ways of doing stuff through biometrics as well, using your face, sort of like what you do on your iPhone or Android phone, or using thumbprint or stuff like that. But there are many different ways of doing two-factor authentication as well. But at the end of the day, it's there to protect you.
And another thing is, if you are a business with MFA implemented, make sure that you have conditional access too. That's something that's in Business Premium.
Yes.
Comes with the licensing.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And where conditional access policies come into place is I think we touched on this a little bit in our last podcast, but it helps to protect the end user from themselves at the end of the day, right? Where it forces multi-factor on all of your users, so they can't go in and turn it off, right? They can't go, man, this pesky MFA thing, I have to re-authenticate every 90 days, and I have to enter a code when I'm trying to work from Starbucks. If they turn that off, it's off. But there's ways to enforce it and ensure that it stays on.
Yeah, and one of the things you have to always predict is the unpredictable, and so using conditional access policies and working with somebody like 2W Tech here to make sure that you have the right policies in place to protect your business is something that is very valuable. There are a lot of different things that come into your inbox, or social engineering and other things that can come in and ruin your day within your business.
Exactly. And with bad actors all around, the question always comes up of backups and redundancies. How redundant is this, is this cloud environment? Is this SharePoint, OneDrive? What do we have to do anything else on the side, Brad, to protect that information? How does the backups and that work?
Boy, now that's a good question and a loaded question all at once.
Oh, I know.
Alex. So, we could probably spend an entire podcast talking about backup strategies when it comes to Microsoft 365. So out of the box, you do get redundancy, and what does that mean? So whenever you delete something, whether it's in SharePoint, whether it's in Outlook, whether it's across the board, you get the ability to restore that. That restorability usually is within 90 days, right? Or if something happens to your tenant, that redundancy is replicated with two other data centers. So let's just say if I'm in the central Midwest, it's maybe in east or west or wherever that's located at. So you do have redundancy out there. Microsoft is in the process of coming up with other backup technologies to get even more granular. That's being published out there right now. So if you see other things coming, the quote unquote premium or backup strategies within Microsoft, that's coming as well. So you can work with us here at 2W Tech to talk about those strategies as well. But backup strategies are there. It's, once again, working with your cloud provider like 2W Tech. We love to sit down and talk backup strategies, but it's really about redundancy and how your data is being backed up both from a tenant level and from like I said, a Microsoft Word level, all the way down, to a granular level. So it's definitely something that we love to talk to clients about.
And you have fun. I guess fun is a relative term, but you have fun features like version history and version control. I know I was talking to Danielle the other day. She was working on something. Is like, I don't know what I was thinking here, and had to go back in time. And Danielle, you're able to go, oh, I'm gonna go back to when I was thinking clearly, and I'm gonna go back to that version, right?
Yeah, it's a lifesaver. I just did that this morning actually too, where I was working with our marketing director, and we were like, we knew we had this element on this ad, and we could not find it, so we had to go back, and it popped up, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that version, and then we were able to make that onto the current one. Lifesaver.
We've had that discussion with clients that have gone from like an on-prem version of SharePoint to an online version of SharePoint. They're like, wow, I've got versioning, and versioning is turned on, and now I can see all these versions. It's great.
And that's a native feature. It's one of many, and we won't bore you with any more backup talk right now.
Yeah.
But it's could be a whole podcast in itself. Let's switch gears a little bit here, guys. I want to talk about security management.
Yep.
And so we've talked about how secure the cloud is, what that means, kind of a couple tools that we can secure it, but also there's how do we manage the security, right? We touched real quickly on conditional access policy, but you also want to think about how you manage your security from a device or an endpoint point of view, with your workers possibly working in different time zones across the country, maybe multinationally. No longer are they in the office and the IT guy can come around and go, hey, let me go run this update. Let me see your computer there, and commandeers your computer for 30 minutes at lunch.
And, as we were talking about conditional access policies earlier, and then we wanted to talk a little bit about IT hygiene here. And, we have a lot of different clients, and including ourselves, that are really into mobile device management. And that also begets us into the role of Microsoft Intune to manage our devices, right? And so just getting into that when we talk about security management is, we, even here at 2W Tech, we don't have everybody here in our 2W Tech headquarters. We have people around the country. And so, we manage our laptops and are updating our laptops that are not here in the office. And so we're using Intune to manage those devices. Same thing goes for your mobile tablets and your Android and iOS devices as well. The thing that you have to ask yourself, and Alex, you know this as much as I do, is what happens if all of a sudden your laptop gets stolen, your iPhone gets stolen? How do you protect your devices to make sure that any of that business critical data that's on those devices can be remotely wiped? And that's where Intune kind of comes into the matter of our laptops and our mobile devices. So, not only can we manage those devices, making sure that those devices are getting updated on a regular basis, on our regular update cycles, but if something does happen to that, we have our employees that are trained to say, hey, something happened. It got stolen out of a car or at a Starbucks, as we mentioned earlier. I need to get my phone wiped, or my laptop needs to be wiped. We can do that directly here through our device manager. It just makes sense.
Right. It's how do we get to those machines, and how do we manage them without being able to physically touch them? Mm-hmm. And another point on to kind of build on what you're saying, not only if it gets stolen, if it gets lost, what if you break your computer? What if I have a pen sitting on my keyboard, I'm not paying attention, I'm packing up, and I close my computer on my pen and crack my screen?
Yep.
That's definitely not a real example. So let's say you do that, and you need a computer back now because you need to go do work. And everybody knows getting a new computer is not fun. Yep. It's typically not a fun endeavor unless you have Intune set up. Yeah. Intune allows you to roll out not only a centrally managed, like a centralized device management, like the central configuration, a base config, if you would, so but it also
it's an easy image.
It's an easy image, yeah. And so I can take my current image, load it up on a new computer right away. Basically, I just log in, and if I'm using all the modern work tools, SharePoint, OneDrive, it'll all come over via Intune, and I can just log in, and all my stuff will come over. If I'm a new employee, let's say, and I have to get set up, click a couple buttons, set up that new employee, and now I've ensured that nothing gets missed.
Yep.
Right? We're all human beings, and we all make mistakes, and you could be setting up new users, and you could have had a big hiring spree, and there's 15 of them, and you're on computer 15 setting up by hand, and it's late at night. and you just forget to install something or forget to turn on some policy for the user, right? It happens. We've seen it happen. Everybody knows we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. This helps to take the human error element out and give you a central base configuration for all your users, so they're all set up the same, so you can all manage them the same, so it's easier to manage. It's not, oh, Brad's got a different setup than Danielle, who's got a different setup than Alex, and now as an IT staff I'm like, it could be one of 3 issues.
Much easier to manage that way.
I just got a new laptop yesterday, and I just logged in, and like you said, everything was there. And I knew that we had this implemented, so I knew it was going to be easy, but I still had some sort of fear getting a new laptop, because I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to double check that everything's on there, but I haven't had any issues so far, and everything that was on my old one just mirrored on over.
And Danielle didn't get a new laptop because she broke it.
No.
That was not Danielle was not the character in that story, I promise.
No. Exactly.
Don't want to paint you in a bad light there, Danielle.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No, and I think it's important from both a management aspect, a threat aspect, a security aspect, and everything. It's very wise to be able to do that, and it takes a lot of headache off of your IT staff of managing and building images as well. It's very easy to get done and to manage those particular laptops, devices as well, to build those packages out.
Totally agree. So now that we've discussed how we manage all these devices, Brad, is there anything else you want to add on?
No, I think
security?
it's good.
So then let's kind of talk about how we do the threat protection, right? How do we, now that we've talked about the redundancies of the cloud, we've talked about the security of it, we've talked about how we manage the security, but then there's also how do we help to keep the bad actors out, and how do we respond if the bad actors try to get in? So what does that threat protection look like in a modern work setting? So
there is a very good tool that Microsoft gives us to go down this series, and that is the Microsoft Defender, right? And so we have Microsoft Defender for Business and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So they are security services that go out and monitor basically our email and what threats that may come into our environment, right? And so Defender is an absolute great software package that really replaces a lot of third-party tools out there that you may have been using in the past. We'd been working with a client as well that had used some other third-party tools, whether it was antivirus or mail scanning tools. When they chose to use Microsoft Business Premium, you and some of the licenses that they got to use Microsoft Defender. And so at the end of the day, you're using a cloud-based endpoint security service that comes out there and says, okay, now I have the ability to go out there and look at advanced threats. So we talked about this at the very beginning of this podcast, that you're looking for ransomware, 0-day attacks, all the different kind of things that can come in and ruin your day when it comes to a business, right? You're threat hunting, you're looking for incident responses, vulnerability management capabilities, all the stuff that Microsoft goes out there. They spend a lot of money doing this, putting these packages together and finding different ways that bad actors are going to try to come in and penetrate your Microsoft 365 environment, both from an Exchange point of view, or just in general from the tenant point of view, coming into your business area. So we've done a lot of different things with Defender here at 2W Tech, and it's been basically a comprehensive protection package for our business users.
It's hard to follow that, Brad. So, yeah, it's a comprehensive package. It does both. Not only it helps protect I keep going back to protecting the end user from themselves, right? And so it does things like with the anti-phishing policies. Hey, this is saying something as simple of, you don't often receive emails from this sender on the top of your email. all the way to safe links and safe attachments, which doesn't let you be click happy. It makes sure it scans the file, scans the link, make sure it is what it says it is, because we've all been there. We've been waiting for someone to send us something. They send it and you're like, oh, and before you've even read the email, you see the subject and the file attached. You're like, that's what I'm looking for. That quick decision might be what makes or breaks. Is that a bad file?
Right.
Was it malicious, right? Is it actually the file? And so having that scanned helps to protect us from ourselves.
Right.
And that's, I think, a very important aspect. There is non-user where the users won't see it. There's, the encryptions and the blocking of known threats and learning the end user's patterns, right? So Defender, we call it its next gen threat protection. Right. So it looks for not only the known code, but also abnormalities in user behavior. If Danielle doesn't send a whole bunch of files to the Philippines and all of a sudden she's just dumping files to the Philippines, Defender's going to raise its hand and say, hey, something is wrong with this user, and probably shut it down.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of leads its way a little bit into the security and compliance section as well. Besides what we have with Defender, it goes to the alerting of what's going on. So if somebody dumps 2 gigabytes worth of data out of a particular, let's just say OneDrive, it will notify the right individuals per policy of saying, hey, did you realize that so-and-so has dedumped 2 gigabytes of files to this particular drive or has taken it out of your system? So it's one of those things that's notifying that files are being moved around in possibly a bad actor type of way that shouldn't have been done, or taking it off of your network, and is notifying either your internal security, security admins, or people that need to be notified that certain files have been moved from point A to point B. And, that's part of that advanced, security threat analysis of saying, hey, something is not right that doesn't normally occur.
And that just happened with us, Brad, actually, because I had sent something out, and our CTO got the notification that maybe the security wasn't as tight as it should have been. And so he got that notification, sent it to me, sent it to Brad, and we were able to, I think we were able to fix the situation.
Shame on you, Danielle.
I know.
Always finding the holes. So no, I mean, it's, and it's good though, because at the end of the day, with the tools that we have with Defender, and like I said, here at 2W Tech, we're really locked down in regards to how we're putting our policies into place. And then we look at the Security and Compliance Center, and with Purview, we have a lot of policies that are in place that looks at how we compare to other people that are out there. And that goes into a lot of the security scorecards that we have. And we work with a lot of different clients in regards to security scorecards as well, and trying to improve our security posture, just as everybody tries to do, right? You go out and you look how you're set up, whether it's patching, whether it's, policies within your Exchange environment, how you have your external availability set up. There's a lot of different things that you can do within your environments to be better present in regards to how threats are being attacked within your environment. And that's one of the things that you can do in general, that are people that are listening to this podcast, just looking at your security scorecard, or using someone like 2W to help guide you through that security scorecard, and saying, hey, these are the things that we can do to improve our security posture, can help your business out. I mean, Alex, this is something that I know that you do all the time working with clients.
Yeah, security is a moving target, right? It's always one of those continual improvements. You'll never be done with security. There's always going to be something new. It's an arms race, right? We make something that protects, blocks the bad actors out. But then the bad actors find a way to get around it, so it's just an arms race, right? So they're never going to be done with security, and it's going to be a topic that's going to be more and more prevalent in your lives if it's not already. Security is not going anywhere, And so using tools like the security scorecard and measuring that not only to your general just, hey, how is my security doing, and have like a physical list to go off of with as an ascertainable goal of, oh, here are the things that I can do. Now, getting to 100% on a scorecard is very hard. Sometimes there's some settings, just like good security, there's a fine line between too much and too little, and you have to find what fits your business. Right. Now, I'm not saying you should have a 50% on that scorecard, but upper 90s, it's hard to reach 100, right?
I mean, every business is going to be different when it comes to the scorecard, and it really depends on what you have deployed out in your environments, both from a Microsoft 365 area and also from an Azure point of view as well. And for those that are listening out there, there's a lot of different things that encompass that scorecard as well. There's also a cloud security scorecard within Azure. And we go out there and we look at that with our clients and talk about that as well in regards to the security posture. And Alex is 100% right. As we go through that, it's all about security posture of what you can do at that moment in time. There are some things that you may not want to do. You may want to leave certain things open for the time being. It also depends on what you have deployed out in your environment as well. If you have certain software deployed out there, it may need to have certain things open for that particular software to work. Maybe it's an accounting software issue, and you're waiting for a bug fix that's out there. Certain things beget certain policies. I will say it's a good terminology about an arms race. It really is an arms race, but you have to have good governance when you look at the security scorecard as well. You have to know that, okay, this is something that we should do. This is something that we might want to do, and this is something that we're not going to do right now. And I think that those are just business decisions that you have to look at, and you have to work internally within your business, or using a trusted partner like 2W.
And not to mention too, you can use that scorecard for audits, right?
Yeah.
You can print some of that off to demonstrate compliance. We're just scratching the surface on the scorecard conversation, but you can run it against CMMC compliances, NIST, ITAR, SOX. Oh, fun ones.
Yep.
So if you want to run it against different compliances too, not just general security posture, but if you have special compliances you need to hit, and you're wondering where you are in that process, how you develop a roadmap, because security and compliance is an elephant, and you have to eat it one bite at a time. But figuring out where to take that first bite can be one of the most challenging, right? How do you get the most bang for your buck through your security? And because there's small tasks, there's going to be smaller things that will make a large world of difference, like turning on MFA. We consider that it's a small task, it's a very small thing to turn on, but it has a huge, giant impact on the security of your environment.
And once again, it's just being smart. It's also discussing things internally within your local IT, and within your business units as well, and what works the best for you. And I think that's how you kind of look at it, and it's good governance. It really comes down to good governance as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And respect to time, we should wrap it up. But Alex, Brad, thank you. We will be doing a part 3, possibly a part 4 as well within this Modern Work series. So stay tuned. Otherwise, we'll catch you later.